The offseason is right around the corner, so trade rumors are starting to heat up. In today's video, I will be taking a look at 5 players that may be on the trading block this offseason and some potential trade packages for them. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. I'm trying to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that all being said, let's get right into this top 5.
Lucas.
Number 5. Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday hasn't necessarily been involved in trade rumors this past season because the New Orleans Pelicans don't want him. It's more so because other teams do. He was instrumental in the Pelicans' late run at a playoff spot before the bubble started, and is the veteran star leader the Pelicans need with such a young core. However, with Lonzo Ball emerging and needing more minutes to evolve into the star he can potentially become, as well as the Pelicans looking to build around Zion for the future, Jrue Holiday may be on the chopping block and with an acceptable deal could be gone this offseason. So, what teams are looking to trade for him? There is one team constantly in rumors for him and have reportedly made offers to the Pelicans already about a potential deal this offseason. This team and their potential trade package makes a lot of sense for Jrue Holiday and the Pelicans, so I think this is quite realistic. That team is the Brooklyn Nets, and here is what a trade package may look like for Jrue. The New Orleans Pelicans received Spencer Dinwiddie, Jarrett Allen, Zanin Musa, and a future first-round pick, and the Brooklyn Nets get back Jrue Holiday. This makes sense for the Nets, as rumors have been swirling for ages that they intend to find a third All-Star to join KD and Kyrie this offseason. Getting a guy like Jrue Holiday makes perfect sense, as he's a solid playmaker and shot creator, great team player, but most importantly, a fantastic defender. Holiday is one of the league's best perimeter defenders. As we all should be aware, Kyrie isn't a great defender, so having Holiday in the lineup could allow Kyrie to focus more on offense, and Holiday's main priority would be to lock up the best opposing guard, which would reduce stress on Holiday to produce on the offensive end. Holiday also wouldn't mind taking on that third role whatsoever. He's basically already the third role on New Orleans, so becoming one on a better, more ready for contention team shouldn't affect him at all. Losing Jarrett Allen isn't terrible for Brooklyn. DeAndre Jordan can replace him, and they have to give up something young for the upcoming Pelican squad. Dinwiddie, whilst he has been a great producer for the Nets, with Kyrie Irving's health issues this season, it is clear that his services will be less and less needed over the next few years, as LeVert is starting to slowly come into his own and Kyrie and Durant will become fully healthy. So I think going to New Orleans will be beneficial for him rather than staying in Brooklyn. For the Pelicans, they get some solid upgrades here. Jarrett Allen is a far more proven young center than Jackson Hayes and fits the timeline of this team really well. And though I do doubt New Orleans holds onto Dinwiddie for long, he will be yet another scorer and playmaker they can go to. If they wish to move him on, that's fine, as I think his trade value is at its highest right now, so they probably could get something very useful out of him, or maybe even a first-round pick. Musa can become a solid rotational player for them. He's still quite raw, but he's shown flashes of improvement this past season on the Nets, and I think he would slide in really nicely onto New Orleans. Overall, Jrue Holiday fits the Nets scenario perfectly, and since he is a perennial All-Star in my opinion, he solves the problem the Nets currently have. The Pelicans make upgrades to their young roster and set themselves up perfectly for next season, where they will look to make another playoff push. I don't think these new additions get them over the line just yet, but they definitely send them in the right direction, for sure. Number 4. Buddy Hield. Hield has been linked in trade rumors all season long. Hield became unhappy midway through this season as he was suddenly moved to the bench and his game time was reduced, most likely to allow Bogdanovic to thrive in the starting lineup. Ever since, Buddy has made it clear he is unhappy in Sacramento and wants out, even going as far as liking a mock trade involving him on Instagram and commenting on that post. So I think it's pretty obvious he is gone. But what team wants him? Well, there's really only one team that I've seen in a lot of rumors for Hield, and that team is the Philadelphia 76ers. So, what would a trade look like between the Sixers and the Kings for Buddy Hield? The Sacramento Kings receive Al Horford and 2 second-round picks for Buddy Hield. Philly lacks spacing and needs some shooters to help support the flailing duo of Simmons and Embiid, so acquiring Hield is a great decision. In my eyes, he'd make a great third option, and with new coach Doc Rivers, he should be utilized very well. Personally, I think the 76ers should have got Mike D'Antoni. He would have made more sense in my opinion, but that's for another video, and I think Hield, Rivers, Simmons and Embiid should coexist very well anyway. Again, Philadelphia needs shooters. Their lack of spacing has been their biggest problem all season long, so hopefully Hield would be a good start in fixing that. Losing Al Horford in this deal is fantastic for the 76ers. He's been simply terrible for them this season and has not fit in well with this team at all. His contract is massive and really restricts the 76ers' future signings, so to get him out is huge. It's also beneficial for Horford as he's openly admitted his frustrations with his role and play this past season. There is an issue with this trade though, and it involves the Kings, as I'm not really too sure how likely they are to accept this trade. Yes, they definitely are going to trade Hield this offseason, but is getting Horford in return for him worth it? Horford is aging and doesn't fit the timeline of the Kings team well, and he's evidently starting to regress. Horford does bring some positives to the Kings. He's obviously still a very solid player and could be a great mentor for a guy like Marvin Bagley, a player that has struggled a bit in his first couple seasons with injuries. It's really up to the Kings to decide whether Horford's positives outweigh his negatives and if trading for him is the right idea for their future. But overall, I do like this deal, particularly for the 76ers. However, I am not too confident it will go down as the Kings don't really get much out of it. If there's nothing better on the table, then maybe they do it, as Horford does bring some positives to Sacramento, but it just might not be enough to have the deal go down. Let me know what you think below, but let's move on to number 3. Number 3, Chris Paul. Chris Paul was great for the Thunder this season and proved to everyone that he's still a quality NBA player, being a fantastic leader for the young OKC team and leading them to the playoffs. However, OKC still may be looking to rebuild completely for next season, so Chris Paul's future with the team is definitely up in the air. Due to this, a lot of trade rumors have been swirling with Paul's name in them. So what's a team that needs his services and are likely to trade for him this offseason? Though reports say it's now unlikely, I believe this team makes a ton of sense for Chris Paul, and a trade here would really benefit both sides. The team involved, as well as OKC, are the Milwaukee Bucks, and here is what a deal would look like between the two teams in my eyes. The Milwaukee Bucks trade Eric Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, and a first-round pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Chris Paul. In my opinion, this makes too much sense for Milwaukee to pass up. Milwaukee is a team ready to contend and needs the use of an elite playmaker like Chris Paul. Paul may feel inclined to go to the Bucks, as with them, the team could be almost guaranteed a championship, and I think the pairing of Giannis and Paul would be fantastic. whilst Paul does need the ball in his hands a lot, he can still be a good floor spacer for Giannis when he takes it up. And I think the combination of Giannis and CP3 could be very reminiscent of the Lob City era. What the Bucks really need Paul for though is for the playoffs and when half-court basketball comes into play more often. No offense to Giannis, but he's very one-dimensional. With another guy like CP3 to worry about, situations like the second round against Miami don't happen, as there are multiple focuses of players to guard. This would 1. Give Giannis more space and freedom that he needs in the playoffs, as I'm assuming CP3 would have a substantial gravitational pull, and also 2. If Giannis does again struggle, Milwaukee will have that all-star level playmaker to rely on instead. This then assures the ball won't end up in the hands of a guy like Bledsoe, and thus making the Bucks a much more deadly, legitimate threat for the NBA championship. For the Thunder, I think the assets they get back are actually very good, and I think they could remain a contender with these players. Brook Lopez is one of the best interior defenders in the entire league, and would be a phenomenal player off the bench behind Adams. He'd also be very useful if OKC ever want to go small ball with their guard tandem, as he's a respectable shooter, and as we saw in Milwaukee these past couple of seasons, can space the floor. Eric Bledsoe is a solid player, but I think OKC would more than likely look to move him on down the track, but he's not a bad player to acquire at all. And of course, you can't go wrong with yet another first round pick. Overall, I think this trade is the dream scenario for the Bucks. They get the secondary playmaker they desperately need to push this team over the hump, and they get rid of a player who has been quite disappointing the last couple years in Eric Bledsoe. The Thunder officially get to start their rebuild, but pick up some solid veterans to ensure this team is still competitive and well led. So I think this is a very beneficial deal for both sides. Number 2. Derrick Rose. The Detroit Pistons had a very underwhelming 2020 NBA season and looked destined to target the lottery in the future. Due to this decision to rebuild, their star players such as Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin may be on the trading block. One team that has been heavily interested in Rose lately, according to reports, and a team that would make a lot of sense for Rose, is the Los Angeles Clippers. Here is what a potential deal may look like. The LA Clippers get Derrick Rose, and the Pistons get back Landry Shamet, JaMychal Green, and a second round pick. This is obviously a smart trade for the Clippers. A reason why they blew a 3-1 lead was because they lacked another playmaker / shot creator who could step up behind Kawhi. Paul George failed to do it, so did Lou Williams, so I think it is essential for them to find a player who can go get you a bucket when needed. D Rose does exactly that, as he's been great the last couple seasons and is now on the verge of being considered an all-star yet again. For the Pistons, I really like the addition of Shamet here. He's a great young shooter with a lot of promise and was really solid for the Clippers these past 2 seasons. He won't be necessarily a go-to option for the Pistons in their rebuild, but he adds the extra diversity the team may need in the lineup moving forward. The only potential issue with this trade is JaMychal Green, as he's on a player option, and if he declines that, then this deal is done. However, if he does accept it and agrees to go to Detroit, then I think this plays in the favor of the Pistons a lot, as they're getting a fantastic veteran for cheap, who can still contribute 10 points on a nightly basis. Overall, it's a good trade for both sides in my eyes. Detroit gets some pieces to help with the inevitable rebuild, and the Clippers get that shot creator they desperately need in the past playoffs, hopefully giving them another shot at a Western Conference Finals appearance in 2021. Number 1. Montrezl Harrell. Over the past few days, Montrezl Harrell has made it clear he wants out of LA. He followed the Raptors on Instagram and named his AAU team after them, as well as a report stating he was upset with the treatment of Paul George during the season and the playoffs. The thing is though, Harrell is an unrestricted free agent this offseason, so how will he get traded? Well, I'm expecting the Clippers to try pull off a sign and trade with the Raptors to get something back, and this is what it may look like. The Raptors sign Montrezl Harrell and the Clippers get back either Fred VanVleet or Serge Ibaka. For the Raptors, it's clear Harrell is on his way north and they are very interested too, so this deal works for them. If I'm being honest, I'm not a huge fan of Trez on Toronto. It's an okay fit, and with Gasol departing to Spain, I guess it makes sense, but I don't think it improves the Raptors that much. For the Clippers, though VanVleet is likely to return to Toronto this offseason, if they can try trade for him through Harrell, that would be absolutely huge and a major win for the franchise. As I mentioned a couple minutes ago, the Clippers need a good point guard ASAP, and VanVleet is a perfect player for them and their system. However, again, it's unlikely Toronto do deal him, so I think if they could go for Ibaka, that would work too, as it'd be a suitable replacement for Harrell and fill the void he would leave. Ibaka is aging, but he fits the timeline of this LA team, and I think he would be signed to LA for relatively cheap. Overall, seeing as Harrell's on his way out, the Clippers should try at least get something back, and if they can with VanVleet, that would be insane, but even getting Ibaka instead is still a good pickup in my eyes. There's a lot they have to do to turn this franchise around in order to have another run at the finals, but this would definitely be a step in the right direction. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? Do you think any of these trades will go down? And do you have any of your own? Let me know all your thoughts on this down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.